What is consciousness? And what does it mean to truly live life awake? Welcome to Clarity to Consciousness, a podcast where we transcend beyond stereotypes, embracing a deeper understanding. I'm your host, Kristen Griffiths, a fellow seeker on this path. Join me on a journey as we dive into conversations with experts, unraveling stigmas, and expanding our awareness to something profound. This is your invitation to open your mind with me as together we bring clarity to the fascinating complexities of human consciousness. Welcome back to Clarity to Consciousness, where we seek to clarify the complexities of human consciousness. I'm your host, Kristen Leigh Griffiths. Today's episode is about the 5 core principles that can transform how we live, love, and connect. Awareness, gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance, as well as intention. And my guests, Rocio and Angel, are a husband and wife duo and also co-authors of The Orchid, The Secret Code of the Modern Goddesses. Their novel blends storytelling with emotional healing, self-discovery, and practical guidance for living with greater awareness. Their personal and creative partnership makes their message resonate in a very special way. I'm thrilled to have them here. I've gotten to know them a little bit before we started recording, and they feel like home. I adore them. So it's my pleasure to welcome Rocio Angel or Angel to the show. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful words. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. I was trying to get my Spanish book out and make sure that I did it right. But honestly, I think I should probably just stick to the English pronunciation. So sorry about that.
You did. It was perfect. So either way it's okay.
But thank you. Thank you. I was trying. Anyway, so I'm so excited to talk to you both. I had an opportunity to read, or actually I listened to The Orchid through your audiobook on Audible, which was so well done, by the way, and actually kind of great because you get the voices, you get a little bit of music in there, which was really nice. Yeah. So it's a wonderful book. I know you have it in the background there for those who are interested to see the cover, but I'd love to get to know you more and also what transpired to have you write this book together.
Well, I'm going to try to be the quickest possible to answer that. I was searching really for forgiveness, but my search begins 33 years ago when I was really in a very difficult household and with many challenge. And my mother died when I was 20. So she was 48. She didn't have any tools and anything. So at one point, that was the beginning on a beautiful journey of really looking to find answers. And finally, I met Angel. This was like an amazing opportunity of life when I met him at 28. And searching, finally, I begin to experience what is healing and releasing energy for my body, for my emotional body. And in that moment, when I begin to understand the pain that I was carrying all this time and understanding that I can let go and don't live with that pain anymore, for me was a point that really changed my life forever. And in that moment, I go and say to Angel, we need to share this with the world. Let's do a TV show. And because we came from the world of entertainment, but first we need to do the book. And okay, let's begin in a journey we didn't have idea to really deliver a beautiful story of power, transformation, and possibilities. And that's how we begin this amazing journey.
It's beautifully shared. Angel, what was going on in your life at the time that inspired you to be a part of this book?
Well, look, I think throughout my entire life, I had been someone who, for whatever reason, always had wise words to say or share. However, when Rocio was looking for forgiveness, we had invested money, lost, and I was able to let it go. And she was not. And so when she would ask me, but how did you help me? All I would be able to say was, let it go. because for me, that is somewhat easy to do. And I thought that that's how other people would experience it. And after the pandemic, which obviously impacted the world, and so we were quite introspective, and we began a series of activities, including doing a master course in spiritual psychology, reading hundreds of books. We were doing this online, but in separate rooms, right? So that each one of us had the opportunity to do it by themselves and have their own process and so on. We just started observing a major change. And this coincided with my exit from a corporate job. I was in the world of entertainment as well for 30 years. And so all of a sudden, the emptiness left behind by that exit was filled with a search for something more profound within. And as we dove in and we became better people individually, like literally we saw each other improve for all of the reasons that one can imagine. You take more responsibility for your actions, for your words, but all of a sudden our marriage became better and our kids started acting differently. So the world, this bubble that was our home and our environment, started to feel quite different. And so we were noticing it, and we had each other to validate it. That helped a lot. And so this is what was going on at the time. It was looking for change, encountering a series of opportunities through learning, education, and so on, and then experiencing that change at a profound level. That's what was really happening at the time, just before we decided that we wanted to write the book.
Let me say something, because you have in him a person who always has the glass full. And in me was always that person who has the glass empty. So imagine being with him for 20 years, looking at him that really he is having fun. And I don't understand for what reason. He was always happy, content, nothing bothers. And in my case, I was in the top of the world and I was not enjoying that. So really, when I begin to understand how to do it, for me was really important to share.
Yeah. What I love about what you just shared, and I look at it through the lens of my own life. So what you did together was you grew together as a couple. You did your own growth journeys, but you did it at the same time. And I think that probably really helped. You said your marriage improved. And I feel like, and I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but for me, I think I went on that journey alone. And I didn't even realize I was going on this journey, but I just was in search for more. And I think that almost created more of a distance in my relationship with my husband at the time, because I think we grew apart and ultimately ended our marriage. So it just made me think of that contrast between our situations, and just, made me wonder, I wonder if that is a big part of the difference in how our marriages ended up.
Well, I was going to say, I now believe that everything happens for a reason. I used to think that it was, 10% what happens and 90% how you react. But really, it's 100% how you react, because everything somehow is intended. And so I think in our case, that's what we needed. And in your case, that's probably what you needed, right? Had you been in a different situation, it might have been entirely different. And so it helps. It's been challenging, without a doubt, but it helped. And I think, our relationship began, Kristen, working together 25 years ago. And there was an incredible amount of respect for one another, because our first love was professional. So, and we had seen both each other at work at our best. And that has always been at the core of our relationship. In fact, we've had our ups and downs, but we've learned to be honest with each other and ask the question, are we still good together? Is the sum of the two greater, right? Is the sum of 1 and 1 greater than 2? Because if it is, then this is worth keeping and worth working for. And that has always been at the center of our marriage, even at the times when we weren't conscious and aware of as we are now.
Because let me tell you something super important, that at one point I was working in sales, in advertising. So I understand how advertising was working for people to buy more things. So at one point, I understand the game of I'm going to implant an idea. But after studying the master for 2 years and reading more and more books, I was able to begin to see like at the big picture, to understand really for what reason I was thinking what I was thinking. So it's normal for people when you don't know better. So, and that's why we are trying to do this, the book and these conversations for more people to understand that we can improve our life. No one is going to come to tell us how to, no one is going to come to save us. We need to save ourselves from the things that we don't like in our life. And in my case, I didn't like to be a victim, neither to be someone who was not able to move forward. Because at one point when we were living in Hong Kong for the job of Angel, I was in the table with the CEOs of banks and people who were really brilliant. And I was observing them, how they were evolved about their feelings, and I was not. So in that moment, I began, for me, a search, I want to be more and understand more how everything works. So I went in psychology only for that reason, to understand better my behavior. The curiosity was there. And that's why it's so important for your listeners to understand. The key here is how you can improve your life, but needs to be from inside to the outside. Because in the moment that you invest the money that you need to invest in yourself, your life is gonna, all the experience that you have are gonna multiply themselves. So imagine someone like me carrying so much pain and so much anger that at one point what I was creating my life from a place of lack and anger, and it's like I need to do it first, and all these things that really doesn't help me to heal my wounds and my trauma. What I learned, and that's the story of the book, is how to heal the trauma and how to begin to see all the limiting beliefs that I was carrying. And in the moment that I begin to see them, I was able to change them. And that was the key for freedom. And is what we are trying to tell anyone who is listening, that at the end is so possible to do it. Because if me, Rocio, a Mexican girl who didn't have support in her growing up, didn't went to school, didn't speak English, I have all the things against me, I was able to succeed and feel this incredible expansion. Anyone can do it.
That's a beautiful message. And I hope people listening are really inspired by that message. And while my path was different, I was like you in a lot of ways. We're feeling a victim to my own life in a lot of circumstances, and principles such as this that you talk about in the book really helped me as well. But what you've done is you've sort of organized them in a logical path and created a story around them with beautiful examples in the characters that you created of what these paths could look like depending on each person's circumstance. So I'm very excited to talk about these principles, and maybe you could kind of explain a little bit about the intention for the book to show these principles, and then the ultimate goal for the book. And just as a reminder to the audience, the principles that we're talking about here are awareness, gratitude, forgiveness, acceptance, and intention.
Thank you. Look, Kristen, as we were changing, we wanted to tell our story. Everybody wants to say, this is how I changed. This is what happened to us. And then all of a sudden we said, my gosh, there are so many great self-help books out there by really, recognizable people. What's going to make ours stand out? And so we decided to move away from that, away from making it our story, and tell a fictional story instead. So what you read in the book, it's really Angel's and Rocio's story told through the eyes of 5 women. And essentially, these women are all at different crossroads in their lives, right? You have a sexually abused model. Rocio and I have been very open. Both of us are survivors of sexual abuse. Rocio as an adult, I as a child. There is a woman who is angry with the world because she had to fight tooth and nail for everything that she had. Sophia. There is another woman who is divorced and has not been able to get over it. Both Rocio and I come from, single parent homes in which our mothers had to struggle in order to bring us, and even in some cases, as Rocio has shared, was quite difficult and, suffered the consequences of that. There's another woman who's at the top of her game and cannot enjoy it. As Rocio mentioned before, we've all been there. And there is a woman who is gay and has not told at 30 something to her parents that she is so. And in our case, we're not gay, but we, like many people, hide behind a facade because we want to be accepted.
We want to belong.
We want to belong. And so you have all of these amazing women thinking that they're broken. And someone, a friend, says, well, in some cases, it wasn't a friend, but it was half friend, half employer, is you should go to this place. It's going to make a difference in your life. And they go. And when they're there, they're in a 7-day spa, the best spa in the world, which was opened about 20 years before by this amazing woman who experienced similar things and went around the world and found not healing, found something even greater, inner love. She then said, how do I share this with other women? And so that is the Orchid, right? The Orchid is the destination. So across these 7 days, they're going to learn these 5 lessons, which you've mentioned. And the way we break them down, it's really in 3 stages. Stage number 1 is become aware. When you observe something, when you begin to pay attention to those things in your life, whether you like them or don't like them, but begin to pay attention to them, you can then all of a sudden single them out and do something about them if you wish. Observance, awareness is the first thing to do. Then stage number 2 is if you want to change them, we give you 3 amazing tools that they are highly underutilized by the average person. Gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance. And we can go into what that really is at a deeper level. But when you enter into those forces, something happens within you and it starts to change you. And the more you use them and the more of a professional you become at using these tools, like a handyman knows his tools, the better and the more influential they will be in your life. And when you use them and you recuperate the energy that you've been given to so many different aspects of your life, and you're almost recharged, right? You just have more energy because you're not giving it to things that are not necessarily important for you. Then the invitation is, what do you want to do with it, that newfound energy, which is energy that you were giving away, gifting away, if not wasting away? Well, for whatever you want, for your dreams, for your projects, to live the fullest, most complete life that you can live. And that is the novel. It takes the women through this journey. And what we found is that it's having a really beautiful effect on people.
So you talked a little bit about what happens after awareness, and maybe without, giving away everything that's in the book, which, and it is so beautifully written. And we were joking before this. It's like this is not the White Lotus,
Right.
although there's some similarities. Like think of this as more of like Eat, Pray, Love if you had to like associate a movie to it, right?
Yeah.
But so you talked a bit about gratitude and forgiveness and then acceptance. Can we start maybe with gratitude without reading the book? Can you give us some tools to help get us in that place of gratitude, to start feeling that shift once we've become aware and conscious of a shift that needs to occur?
It's important that at one point, when you are in the most difficult part of your day, change your perspective. Instead of this is very difficult, let me begin to find the good things that are in my life. Because in that moment, when you begin to experience, okay, this is a difficult situation, but let me focus on what I have that is working. So you begin to focus in yourself. For example, I have two legs and they are working, so I'm grateful for my body. I'm grateful for my kids, for my household. I'm grateful for how important is for me to stand up today because everyone is gonna die at one point. So this being here is a present. So if you begin to change the way you think about, okay, this is life and this is whatever, you begin to see life like this is a present and I'm gonna begin to be grateful for all the beautiful things that I have. And at one point can be maybe things that you possess or a friendship. So all these things help you to really focus your attention in the things that are going well in your life. And when you begin to experience this emotion when you were a little kid and they tell you it's gonna be Christmas, and really for the majority of people is celebration, happiness, present. It's like this feeling of, wow, is the time of the year. So that help you to change really how you feel about the present moment and what is important. I don't know, you want to say something else?
Yeah, no, I want to add to that. Some doctors today are choosing in situations in which someone has cancer not to mention the C word. Because the moment that you mention the word, it comes accompanied by a series of ideas and thoughts that almost allow for the disease to become bigger and stronger within you.
It debilitates.
Yes, because it's almost like the opposite of the placebo effect, right? The same is true with anything that we do in our lives. And so I am pretty sure that someone listening right now is saying, well, that's ridiculous. I'm going to start giving thanks and all of a sudden everything changes. Try it. Hold back those thoughts. Now that can't be. And allow yourself for 5 minutes, 1 minute at a time, but just go around and start giving thanks for everything in your line of sight. I give thanks for the cup on my desk. I give thanks for the coffee that I get to drink every morning. I give thanks. I give thanks. Gratitude. And this is where it gets tricky. We simplified it so much. I give thanks every day, but do you feel thankful inside? It is the feeling inside. It is the entering into that vibration that actually makes the difference. And the only way to enter into the vibration is to stay in it long enough. And that's why we say, do it for a few minutes. Have a list of things and start with those things that are easy to be thankful for, right? Because we all have things that are easier than others. And you will start feeling different. We practice it at home as if it was life or death. Sometimes we're in a difficult place and now we have the language between us. And so one is supposed to say to the other, do you want to go into gratitude? And it's like, yes, of course, right? Because we know that it starts to shift and we've seen it work on ourselves and our daughters. And in fact, it's not uncommon in our house for us to say, lay on the floor. You have to say thanks. You have to give gratitude. And you hear a shift in energy after 5 or so minutes. What was heavy starts to dissipate because where there is gratitude, there is no space for any other heavy emotion. And that's how it works. That's why in the book, we invite the women to give thanks about themselves, about the things around them, because we know that it starts to elevate their energy. And when you elevate the energy, any idea that you have, it's starting from a higher ground. Any thought, any creation, even a difficult situation is better if you do a gratitude exercise before it, because you're starting from a lighter energy. And surely that's going to make a difference.
And that's why it's so important that you know yourself.
Beautifully explained. I can vouch for this. I am a big practitioner of gratitude as well. And I mean, I can, guarantee that if you spend some time thinking about what you're grateful for, you will feel better if you give it long enough. So I love what you shared there. Thank you both. So we talked a little bit about forgiveness. Forgiveness is really tough for some people. And I've seen mixed even experts have mixed opinions on forgiveness. I think it's so beautiful how you explained it and talked about, the gift of forgiveness for yourself and what it does for yourself. Can you talk about how you define forgiveness and how people might do it in a way that feels freeing and not so forced? Because I think that's what people struggle with. It's like, well, what somebody did is so horrible. Like, how could you possibly forgive? Like, and it almost feels insulting to even ask somebody, but maybe you can kind of help reframe it for people.
Look, I think that in the moment, remember this podcast is about consciousness. And consciousness is for what reason you think what you think. And in the moment that you begin to question all the things that you learned before to this moment, really open the door to begin to create a space for new ideas. And new ideas, an idea was for us, at least in my case, when I understand that how important is to really let go the story that happened 5 seconds ago. Because I'm not living there anymore. I'm living here. And even though that my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my friend, my boyfriend, did things to me. If I continue to hold them, I cannot stay in peace and harmony. So the most important part is to find harmony in your body. So the idea was to understand, number one, that what happened 5 seconds ago is already in the past. So live in the present. Then you have two forgiveness. The forgiveness that you need to do to somebody else and the forgiveness that you need to do to yourself. Why? Because when you understand that if you don't let go and you continue to carry all that pain with you, it's going to stick to your life and you cannot access to all the things that you want because you are not letting it go. The grudge, the heaviness, the angry, the wrongful for me was very incredible in the moment that I was able to forgive men for the wrongful that they did to me. In that moment, I begin to see how beautiful they were and all the things that they didn't know better. But I begin to understand that the most deeply was to forgive myself about carrying so much pain for so long time. But I didn't know better, and neither my parents and neither the people that they did the wrong to me. We've been conditioned in a society to think that we need to carry this grudge forever. And at one point I was doing what society told me to do. But I was getting sick, I was getting depressed, so was very difficult to continue with that way of thinking. So when I learned this way of thinking that, let go and what happened 5 seconds ago doesn't matter, for me was my key for freedom. That's the way I put it today. I'm sure you're going to have something beautiful to say.
That was beautiful as well.
Thank you.
I believe that if we take forgiveness and we separate it into two elements, absolvance and energy management, you who are listening, will start looking at it differently. Forgiving, the one that I would like you to think about, is the energy management system, right? Not about the other person, the situation. Those will, I promise you, take care of themselves. I want you to first take care of yourself. It's like you moved out of an apartment, but you're still paying rent, yet you're not using those services anymore. In fact, you hate the apartment. You're paying rent in the new apartment and you're paying rent in the old apartment. And people ask you, but why do you keep paying rent? Oh, I don't know. I feel like I have to, because that is what happens when we're living in the past. Every single thing that we continue to think about, every single person that we dislike, by the way, that we're continuing to send feelings to and ideas and emotions, is taxing us. And that's energy that you're giving away and wasting away that you can be redirecting for doing amazing things. So for me, the moment that I kind of enter into a new concept, I forgive now almost automatically anything that happens. Why? Because my energy is way too valuable to give it to something or someone that does not deserve it, that does not know how to use it, or that is only going to waste it away. And so my energy, it's like getting up in the morning and saying, I have 10 gold coins every day. And those are going to be for all the projects that I have going. But you have to pay for every interaction, every thought, and every idea that you have. If you start thinking at life that way, you're certainly going to be more careful with your thoughts and ideas and interactions. You're not going to give energy and time to that person who just took your parking spot just as you were about to get in, right? Why? No, I only have 10 gold coins and I need them for my dreams, for my big projects. I don't want to waste it away on an argument with someone about a parking spot. And all of a sudden you start shifting, and that's when forgiveness starts to make a lot of sense. It's my energy. I no longer want to give it. And the Buddhists, I'll end by saying the Buddhists say something really beautiful, which is holding a grudge is like walking with a hot coal in your hands all of your life, waiting to see that person again, so you can throw it in their face. And most often, you don't even see that person ever again. And yet you're getting burned on a daily basis, holding on to that coal just because you think it's worth doing so. And so that's why for us, forgiveness is really important. It is very difficult or it is very easy. It is your choice.
But those are some good words there. Wow. Powerful, powerful. So well said. Thank you. For me, I have some challenging people in my life, as we all do. One in particular, a significant person in my life, has some narcissistic traits. And it's proven to be very challenging in some life circumstances to deal with this person. And one thing that's helped me, and I'm not saying this is going to help everybody, but it has helped me in case it helps anybody else out there, is to really think of them being my greatest teacher, and think of them, if we believe that we choose our life path prior to coming to Earth. And that includes who will be our greatest teachers, even if it's through the challenges that they create in our lives. There's some, going back to gratitude, I can in some ways be grateful for them, especially if you think about it in a way that they chose a very difficult life for the sole reason to teach you a lesson and to help you grow. It's like being on a reality TV show, being like, all right, fine, I'll be the villain just to like make it interesting, you know? And so for me, looking at it from that perspective, looking at that this soul came here to help me in my growth has helped me in a lot of ways think more positively about those challenging teachers. But I really appreciate what you said as well. I think it's so important.
We like your definition as well. It's something we practice, and certainly we believe that everything that is around us is here for a reason, to teach us something. For example, I speak to the fact that I never met my dad. Well, that's not true. I met my father when I was 40 years old for all of 5 hours. And the next time that I heard about him, he had passed away. And I had just finished reading a book about soul contracts. And I understood at that moment that he came onto this earth, and at least his interaction with me was really for the fulfillment of that contract, which was to teach me how to be a fantastic dad. Now, the path he chose was to be the total opposite of that. But I understood that at the moment. And really, all I can say is that I found peace with that. And I believe that when you do start looking at life and your experiences that way, it starts to show itself in such a way that you really do understand the teachers. Sometimes they're your parents, sometimes they're your significant others, sometimes they're your kids. So yes, we are surrounded by teachers. And the sooner you learn the lesson, the sooner the contract can be voided. That's really important. You can cut the string to that contract and say, my contract is fulfilled. Let this end now. But you have to really, at the core of who you are, learn that lesson.
Yes. Well, moving into the last two principles, which is acceptance and intention, can you talk a little bit about the importance of these two concepts and how it kind of rounds out the growth.
I want to give you an example of something real that happened today to me
Okay.
with my daughter. Okay. This is an example, and maybe it is going to help to serve somebody who is listening. So she's 17, I'm 53. And at one point, whatever I say, she say, I know better. I know more than you. So
Yeah.
at one point, I keep asking her to help with something in the house. And she's like, I'm not going to help you. So at one point, she begins to say very hurtful words. So I sit down with her and I say, let's have a conversation. And she has the tools to, like me. Let's have a conversation. And my intention for this conversation is to be loved. And she say, my intention for this conversation is to listen and to be loved too. Perfect. But the most important part for me was that at one point I saw two Rocios, okay? The Rocio who grew up in a household without help, without support, without anything, that was hurt, okay? So I accept that. And then for the other part, you have Rocio now. Rocio who is clear and who loves her daughter deeply and doesn't gonna take personally anything that she's gonna say because she cannot touch me anymore with words. I know that she doesn't know better. So I try to explain her that the only thing that I want for her is I want to support her and love her. Okay? So this is the Rocio. But inside of me is another Rocio who was hurt and has a lot of pain. One point, little by little, she's pressing all the buttons for this Rocio, for me to see that Rocio, all Rocio, and begin to send her love and to help her to heal. So to bring it to you is I accept that difficult things happen to me. I accept that doesn't needs to be in my life anymore. Okay? I'm gonna send love to that Rocio who lives inside of me. He is a inner child, is anything. So I was able to explain to her that she needs to have responsibilities in the house because I'm teaching her. But I'm teaching her from a place of I want you to win, give you love, to understanding. So she saw that at one point she's gonna say difficult words that this Rocio is gonna have a reaction, but that doesn't define our relationship today. So my intention is to support her and make her the best person possible in the universe. You see, with a place of love, understanding. So from this Rocio, I'm aligned. My thoughts, my words, my feelings, and my actions are coherent.
Coherent.
But the other Rocio, oh my God, she needs so much love. But I understand that really in psychology, you can call it ego. That person who did you wrong needs a lot of love. So that's why we talk about acceptance. Yes, you are in a situation with somebody, but that doesn't define how you can react. And that's how you can put that intention to have a different relationship, a different outcome. And it's so important to begin to understand these concepts.
This is powerful stuff. It works at an individual level, but it also works in a country level, for example, of Rwanda, where a genocide took place 30 something years ago. And today, you have both tribes coexisting together. And when you ask someone, I'm sure there's people who still within that disagree, but the majority of the people, when you ask them, tell us, how do you live the way you live now? And their answer is the genocide is part of my history, but it will not define my future. And so I guess my point is that what Rocio just described can grow with groups of people, villages, cities, countries, and even the world. And we need to start thinking of those two elements as we have experiences. They happened. We can't change the past. The only thing that we have control over is right here, right now. We can't even control the future. But the person who I am today will start to shift the way I live tomorrow. And so I love the way you've applied it.
And creating that intention for how you want that to look and
Yes.
sending that energy forward. Yeah, I love that. Well, just thinking about our conversation today and starting to think about closing up with you both, which has been such a wonderful conversation. What is one key takeaway you hope the listeners remember about the guiding principles that we talked about today and the work that you're doing with the Orchid?
To be honest, I would love for people to read the book because the way they describe it is a guide for life. So at one point when you begin to understand yourself and how to play the game of life, in that moment you begin to play for to win, to win and to have a beautiful, beautiful experience because we came here to really enjoy and to be the best version of ourselves, to really shine and be unique and original. So that's for me my invitation for anyone to take it. And it's like a invest in yourself because in the moment that you do, everything change. And Christine, believe me, now I'm 53. For first time, I was my best friend at 50. So now that I see that my kids use the tools and they believe in themselves and they are free, I want everyone to experience that.
Beautiful.
I would add to that, and I'm sure there's many listeners who still, we get caught up in our own thoughts on that hamster wheel. I don't know, that. The reason why the book is helpful is because you lose yourself in the story. And as you lose yourself in the story, you put your guard down and subconsciously it starts to have a dialogue with you internally. And we've had people that say, oh my gosh, I remember something that happened to me as a child that I had locked away. We have another person who said it got me out of my depression. Like all I needed was this push and it just pushed me out of that box, which later I realized didn't even exist. And so the invitation is read the book because it might just take you along on a journey that you've had difficulty with, but here is done without judgment, with incredible amounts of love. The book was also written in a way so that 10% is really the drama in the women's lives and 90% is really all they're learning and doing to get out of that drama so that they can succeed. And the final thought that I would have is we've been conditioned to believe that we don't have power, that the power is outside of us, that there's so much against us. And yes, there is, but it's also true that you are powerful, incredibly so. And if you start using your energy differently, you can redirect some of that energy, if not all of that energy, towards closing the wounds that we carry so that the next time that somebody throws a grain of salt, it doesn't immediately start, painfully hurting. But if you start redirecting that energy, I promise you, you will begin to see changes in your lives. And then little by little, you can start fine tuning because this is a lifelong process. You start to change and you learn and you grow and you expand. Sometimes you take a setback. Sometimes your 17-year-old is challenging you and there's a little bit of a setback, but you start to see it early and you start to know which is the tool that you need at that moment to get ahead and come back ahead.
What you said reminded me of a time when I was in a dark place. It was after my son was born and my hormones were all over the place. I probably had an ego death of like, who the heck am I anymore? I mean, I'm a mom now and I don't know, there's a lot that didn't make sense. And I can imagine finding the Orchid. If somebody gifted me the Orchid at that time, I think that would have been incredibly helpful to get me out of some of those dark places that I was in. So if you're listening to this and you know somebody or you yourself might be experiencing some of that, like I was, I recommend that book very much so. And I have a little somebody who's speaking in. I'm still recording.
This is the best.
And Kristen, I would add that for any man who is listening, this is, even though the title says, the secret code of modern goddesses, this is anything but a book for women. It is a book
Yeah.
for human beings who need to get in touch with their emotions and who are at a place in which they need a shift in their lives. Because wherever you are, for whatever reason, you want more, there's more, and you're struggling. So it's a book for any gender.
And the best part is building bridges to really mothers that they give it to the child and then they begin to understand each other because we didn't know we can do it different way. But when you learn and have this conversation is really, I didn't. So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
And if someone listening is just beginning their journey to exploring this idea of consciousness, what advice would you offer them?
The most important is compare themselves with the iPhone or any other phone that they continue to have actualizations all the time because new things are happening. So they treat these ideas like a new actualization that they can do for themselves. So it's great to understand for what reason you think the way you think. And in that moment, whatever you don't like, you can change it.
I would say, listen to that voice, follow. There are so much information available today on YouTube, on podcasts such as this one, books. Allow your curiosity to take you. There's something really powerful within us. We've called it by 1,000 names. We've given it all sorts of names, and it's been part of religions. It's been part of so many different conversations. That voice, that something, intuition, whatever you call it, is inside of you, and it's guiding you. It's putting breadcrumbs in front of you. Give yourself the opportunity. Allow the curiosity to take you on your journey. Because one of the things that I've learned is that you come with an incredible amount of questions to this life, and all of the questions are inside of you waiting to be revealed. So allow yourself to go through that path.
Yes. Curiosity was one of my biggest drivers, for sure. Last question. In your view, what does it mean to live life consciously?
It's like you asking a fish, what is water? And in my case, is for me is staying in love. So help me to understand for what reason I think the way I think, what I say, the way I feel, and the way I act. So finally, it's like I'm alive. Thank you to understand consciousness that I can create right now. I'm creating what is going to be 5 years of, I don't know. So it's be in the present moment and understand that I have choice of how I'm going to act in my next moment. And after being so much in sadness and guilt, when I begin to, right now, I know that I love to be in joy and wonder and love. And is changed already my trajectory in life. That's why we want to share it with everyone, because it's for everyone here to enjoy.
For me, I would go back to the example of the energy management system. It's for those people who are in this early stage of their journey. For me, is realizing that I take and I give energy. It's realizing where it's going, how I use it, that I can manage it differently, and that I'm better off having a full battery when I am going after the things that I really love and I care about, whether it is a project, a new business, or a relationship. So the moment that you start to become conscious that you are present, that you are in control, everything changes and it gets easier and you become better at it. And all of a sudden it becomes innate and it's just second nature. And so that for me, I would say is a way to look at becoming conscious. It's really knowing that you have so much power over who you are. And all you have to do is practice it.
Rocio and Angel, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and I love what you had shared about these principles and being so open about your background and why you chose to write the Orchid. Anything else you want to share before we part ways today?
So,
We will love to
yes.
read the dedication of the book.
It really summarizes what the book and our goal in life now is all about. And it says, to all who journey through these pages, may you be inspired to rewrite your own narrative and live a life of love, free of limitations, and enriched by the knowledge that you are powerful beyond belief.
Such beautiful words. Thank you both so much. And for our listeners to learn more about the Orchid and the powerful journey that you'll experience listening to this story, visit theorchidbook.com. And you'll find not only the book, but also the resources that Angel and Rocio talked about today and ways to practice these principles that we had discussed. So thank you both so much for being here. It was really an honor. You're both adorable and such a beautiful couple, and it's so nice to see an example of a beautiful couple. And so thank you so much. And to all you listening, thank you so much for listening. Please share this with somebody who might find value in it. Once again, I'm your host, Kristen Griffiths. And until next time, stay curious, live consciously, and keep seeking clarity. Much love. Bye for now.